False. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
A bombshell report this morning about the Justice Department taking almost unheard of steps to investigate members of Congress and their families under former President Trump. The department seizing records of at least 2 U.S. lawmakers on the House Intelligence Committee, both vocal Trump critics. The New York Times reporting that in 2018, the Justice Department targeted records of the communications of key Democratic lawmakers, their aides, and family members, including one child. The committee confirming to NBC News that the DOJ secretly subpoenaed tech giant Apple for the data of Congressman Adam Schiff and Eric Swalwell, both Democrats from California. It was all part of an aggressive push by the Trump administration to determine who was leaking classified information to the media. At the time, the Intelligence Committee was investigating Russian interference into the 2016 election.
In the dawn of the Trump administration, when we saw a spate of classified information be released into the press, they threw the White House into chaos. And there was a lot of pressure, first on Attorney General Jeff Sessions, later on Attorney General Bill Barr, to figure out who was the source of these stories.
The Times writes that early in the Trump administration, the data and other evidence did not tie the committee to the leaks, and investigators debated whether they had hit a dead end. But the investigations continued under Attorney General Bill Barr.
They ought to investigate Adam Schiff for leaking that information. He should not be leaking information out of intelligence. They ought to investigate Adam Schiff.
Schiff has denied the president's allegations and now condemns the investigation.
So it's extraordinary, maybe unprecedented, for the department to seek records like this.
I think spying did occur.
Spying did occur, everybody. Remember, he told us that. Bill Barr literally testified under oath that spying did occur. Except he insinuated that the spying was happening to Donald Trump instead of the spying being ordered by Donald Trump. So, you have to parse, you have to actually, drill down on
I think spying did occur.
The words. It's Friday, you bastards. Oh my God, what a week. So a lot of crap didn't happen this week. A lot of crap did not happen. So here's what crap did not happen. We did not get the Paycheck Protection Fairness Act. That was filibustered. Apparently, any background check efforts on gun legislation is, I don't know if it's dead. It seems dead. It seems very dead. Police reform is half dead. Thanks Tim Scott, the only black Republican in the Senate, who said, I can get this done. I understand what it's like. I've been pulled over 9 times as a black man in South Carolina. Yeah. So that's half dead. The states are banning the teaching of history. Florida just did it yesterday. No teaching of history. It's a bad... listen, this is the problem. Yesterday we went over, the Becker piece where, he insinuates that there are 4 groups of Americans that we have split into, and one of them was smart Americans, who to me sounded very douchey. I told you that, and I did not identify with that group, because they avoid other Americans. They go to the best schools. Ha! I went to PS 272 and junior high school 211. And they, so I couldn't even relate to them. And then the other 3 groups were like, Palin, Reagan, Rand Paul-ish. So there was no place for me in any of his descriptions. Now, dealing with the smart Americans, I have to say they're the ones who named this thing critical race theory. It's a bunch of Harvard academics that actually said that we need to teach the 1619 Project. Okay, we need to teach the actual founding of the American cotton industry. We have to teach the actual reason for the Civil War. We have to teach what happened during Reconstruction, and not, we can't just teach George Washington Carver and the Peanuts. Okay, we can't just teach that. So anyway, states are banning the teaching of actual American history. Florida just did it yesterday. We found out this week also that the wealthy do not pay income taxes because they don't earn anything. They either inherit their money or their money makes money. And so they don't earn. They don't actually have earnings from labor. They exist on capital gains and, selling, items, like yachts and real estate and stuff like that. So they don't pay income tax on earnings. And we also learned that if you're vaccinated, which I am, forks do not stick to you. Sorry, they don't. And keys apparently are made of brass. So I don't even know what dumbass doctor, osteopath in Ohio was talking about. Okay, so now all of a sudden you go home, you figure, all right, I've told everybody everything that's happening. People are oriented, who want to be oriented into the world that we, actually toil in, the world that we exist in, the world that we live in, the world that we, try to have some conversations about so that we can plan. We can plan, our savings. We can plan our futures. We can plan our children's future, No, I go home and all of a sudden on the TV, there's a big New York Times bombshell story, another story of Donald Trump's sickness, his twisted abuse of power, wrongdoing. And once again, this is the worst one yet, but it's not the last one. And expect the next one to be worse than this one, because the next one is going to be criminal and he's going to go to jail, or at least be put on trial. I just hope I live long enough. I think this is why I quit smoking, so that I could, live long enough to see him go to jail, and maybe long enough to see him die in jail from old age. Do you know what I'm saying? But there's so many heinous discoveries to be made about this man and his, and he was only president for what, 4 years? He's only gone 5 months, and it's like I've lived through several decades already. Do you know? I mean, does anybody else feel like that? Like his presidency went on and on for like decades, and the post-presidency is just, the revelations are another decade of shock and awe. I mean, it's like they unearthed crimes by Donald Trump, and they'll probably be doing it, longer than they're pulling dinosaur bones out of Montana's, hills. Do you know what I'm saying? And this is going to go on and on and on. So this particular scandal, now, I just want to say at the front end, because I don't think anybody's explained to you how the information got to the press about Flynn, okay? This spying that occurred happened under Jeff Sessions, and then the FBI said we're, dead end. We don't have anything about leakers, okay? There's just no evidence that anybody in Congress leaked any information to anybody in the press. And the reason why people know about the contacts that the Trump campaign had with Russians and Russian ambassadors is because we regularly wiretap Russians and Russian ambassadors, i.e. Ambassador Kislyak, who Flynn was regularly on the phone with. I mean, we've known this for years, right? And instead of just sitting there and saying, Flynn's an idiot, he shouldn't be the national security advisor, he defends Flynn, Trump does, and then goes after the congressional oversight that Congress is constitutionally mandated to do when the president is suspected of abusing his freaking power or of colluding with a foreign government. Now, they already had the transcripts from Flynn because Kislyak was regularly wiretapped, as usual. So what does Donald Trump do? He goes to Jeff Sessions, and of course he tells Jeff Sessions that he wants phone records and emails from Adam Schiff, Eric Swalwell. We don't know if it was Republicans too. We don't know this yet. We just know he asked and got.
Clear.
all things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Whether it was Schiff or somebody else, they leak the information before it gets in. And what's even worse, they leak the wrong information. And he got tired of it. So he wants to do it in a different forum because you have leakers on the committee. Obviously, leakers that are doing bad things. Probably not even legal to leak, but we'll look into that separately. But they were leaking the information as brought in. Howard, you don't have that in Texas. Ken, you wouldn't allow that in Texas. No, I guarantee Ken will not be allowing the leakers to be doing that. So we were, he wanted to make sure that it doesn't leak.
The reason why he kept saying this is because that's exactly what he was doing. He was spying. You know, Trump's whole projection thing was that his campaign was spied on. His campaign was not spied on. His campaign was in touch with Russian ambassadors, Russian operatives, Russian spies, and their phones were tapped. And idiot Flynn was just out there, you know, making deals with Russians for, getting into, Manafort was giving them polling data. I mean, he was literally handing the Russian oligarchs internal polling data in order to make himself what they call whole. Why? Because Manafort entered into a deal with a Russian oligarch for millions of dollars, and the Russian oligarch was pissed that he wasn't getting his money's worth and wanted the money back. So Manafort said, all right, I'll get you the information. He's running for president. I'm on the campaign. I'm the campaign manager. And he was literally giving the polling data to Russian oligarchs who were giving it to Vlad. I mean, that's how they got caught, okay? Because they were just the gang that couldn't shoot straight. But Trump needed to blame the actual oversight investigation into his abuse of power and into his, collusion. They had to do oversight to protect the national security of the United States of America. Hence, the Intelligence Committee, Adam Schiff is the chairman, started to look at the information that was available to him because they have security clearances. And they knew what was going on. They were able to know. So Donald Trump decided that he would tell Jeff Sessions a couple of things. One, he needed to, prevent a special counsel, and Sessions recused himself because Sessions was doing it too. Sessions was talking to Russians too. And so he recused himself because he could not investigate what he was a party to. And Trump was livid and trashed him from wall to wall. And behind the scenes, we now find out that Trump went to Sessions and said, any other attorney general, look at the one I got. Remember that? I want you to investigate how the Intelligence Committee knows this stuff. Now, Sessions probably told him they know this stuff because they've got security clearances. No. I want prosecutors. I want subpoenas. I want documents. I want emails. I want phone records. I want everything. I want you to go and get me because it's a leak investigation. That's what it is. It's a leak investigation. So Sessions did it. He actually did it. He convened a grand jury. Because I was sitting there going, did Judge Judy give out this subpoena? I mean, Judge Dredd? Who authorized the subpoena? Turns out it was a grand jury subpoena. A grand jury was convened to hear a leak investigation. And so they said, okay, you can subpoena members of Congress, and gave them the authorization to do it. And so the subpoenas went to Apple. Apparently they went to Google. And the subpoenas were for phone records, they call it metadata. So what does that mean? Well, it's a very broad term, but from what I'm understanding, it's not the contents of any phone call, and it wasn't the content of any email. It was logs of who was called on this phone number. Okay, now, all this week we were hearing stories from the New York Times saying that the New York Times reporters also had subpoenas issued for their metadata, their phone records, their email addresses, like who were they talking to try and figure out sources that were giving information to the free press so that we could know what was going on, right? So New York Times reporters were, their email metadata was subpoenaed. Their phone records were subpoenaed. Washington Post, their phone records were subpoenaed. Their email metadata was subpoenaed. And Barbara Starr, the Pentagon reporter over at CNN, same thing. And these stories were, all one after the other this week. And then all of a sudden we get this bombshell report. Oh, it's not just reporters. They went after constitutional officers. They went after the Intelligence Committee, who had oversight, constitutional oversight, when the president is suspected of abusing the Constitution or violating the Constitution, failing to protect and defend from all enemies, foreign and domestic, or abuse of power. We have had, I'm sure everybody in this audience has had a disaster of a relationship with a person or two who was so emotionally draining and soul-sucking, but nothing has been this emotionally draining and soul-sucking as the relationship that we have had with this Cheeto-colored man, with this, faux president, with this, unbelievable abuser. I mean, it's just, and this is a double dipper. What do I mean? Well, I mean, it's shocking, but it was also very expected. Very expected. So now we're finding out that there were about 100 accounts. 100 accounts. Now, I don't know if that includes the journalists, because there are several of them. There's like 3 or 4 or 5 over at the New York Times. There's like 3 or 4 or 5 over at the Washington Post. We know Barbara Starr at CNN. They were all spied on, all of them. And Sessions' investigation hit a dead end, okay? It literally hit a dead end. They weren't finding any sources, from this leak investigation. They weren't able to show that anybody in the media was talking to anybody who wasn't authorized to tell whatever they were telling. They found nothing. Dead end. No, they're there. There's nothing prosecutable. There's no criminal activity here. There's nothing going on. So then when Bill Barr came along, Donald Trump went to him and said, look at the one that I got. I got Sessions as my AG. Now I got you. And you're gonna do this. You're going to say, you're going to go pick up this subpoena. You're going to renew it. And you're going to keep on spying, especially on Schiff and during the impeachment trial, during the actual impeachment trial. You know what's crazy? Schiff didn't know. Swalwell didn't know. Whoever, I don't even know if there were any Republicans on the Intel Committee that were also intruded on. I don't know, because the Republicans won't say, and we don't have that information yet from the Department of Justice. The only reason why we know any of this is because when Apple got the subpoena to go get the records and turn them over to Bill Barr also included a gag order. Now, Donald Trump's very famous for these NDAs, non-disclosure agreement. So this was the government version of that.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Overall, it is beyond stunning, and it's appalling, I think, for anyone who cares about democracy and how our institutions are supposed to work. The way that the DOJ was weaponized to launch these leak investigations into political adversaries without what appears to be the proper predication, I think, is deeply concerning. Now, leak investigations are common, as you well know, Andy McCabe, but it's the targets of these leak investigations that is really concerning. It's the gag orders, all of that combined. And I guess now I'm at the point where I'm just bracing myself for what are we going to learn today? Right. Who else was targeted? Who are the others?
And it's the relentless pursuit of these cases despite no factual results, right? Despite unproductive investigations. And look, that's been my own experience. I've been under investigation since January of 2017.
Right.
It's one investigation after another. I guess if you count John Durham, then maybe I still am. It is the relentless pursuit of of retaliation against perceived enemies. And I don't think we've ever seen anything like that from the Justice Department or any part of this government prior to the Trump.
I mean, COINTELPRO, right? This is really the most amazing abuse of power that I've lived through. Because, you know, in the 60s when they were spying on, Martin Luther King Jr., right? COINTELPRO. Nixon was spying on his enemies. It wasn't even as bad as this, because this is spying on people who have a constitutional obligation to conduct oversight investigations into a president who obviously is abusing his power or is plotting against free and fair elections or plotting against the United States of America in order to self-elevate, or using propaganda supplied to him by a foreign government to win an election. And that is what the impeachment was about. And it was going on when these original grand jury subpoenas were observed. And Apple, I guess most of them used iPhones. I don't know. There were Google ones too. The Google was also given a subpoena to produce, metadata from emails and phones for reporters. So it's so horrific to think that we live in a country where you get the wrong president and then he can go crawling around in your phone and your family's phones and your kids' phones because he doesn't like being exposed as being somebody who is working against the United States or abusing his power. This is so amazing. And the gag order on top of it, that's just stunning. Now, Trump always deploys NDAs. Like when you go to work for him, you have to sign a non-disclosure agreement saying you won't say anything that you see. You won't, if he's abusive to you, you won't tell anybody. If he's abusive to your friend or to your it's just so unbelievable. He did it with Stormy Daniels, and then he tried to sue her for violating and he did it to that other girl, Karen McDougal, right? And so he now uses the government to issue gag orders on tech companies so that they can't tell the Congressional Oversight Committee. They can't tell the intelligence that they're spying on them while they're investigating the president of the United States. And the only reason why we know about it is because the gag orders expired. And Apple notified the members that they notified. I mean, we don't know who else was part of who else was spied on, but we do know that Eric Swalwell was, and we do know that the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Adam Schiff, was. Okay, we know that. But apparently there are like 100 accounts. That's what Eric Swalwell said when he was on TV last night too, and he was saying there were over 100 accounts.
This is really astounding and unprecedented. You sit on the House Intelligence Committee. Records from at least a dozen people seized, including from aides, family members, even a minor. Do you have reason to believe that they sought your records as one of 100, one of among 100 accounts? Have you been notified of that by Apple or anyone?
I was notified, Don, by Apple that they did seize my records. It's wrong. This is what they do. They smear and they try and clear. We've seen this through the Justice Department by Donald Trump, whether it was the reason he was impeached for trying to go after Vice President Biden at the time, or just other efforts, through the Mueller investigation. And I support Chairman Schiff's call for an Inspector General report into not only this conduct, but other conduct that was corrupt by Donald Trump and those who worked for him.
The reporting is that among the numbers obtained were family members, and as I said, even a minor. Do you know that to be true? And why would they be targeted?
I do know that to be true, and I believe they were targeted punitively, not for any reason in law, but because Donald Trump identified Chairman Schiff and members of the committee as an enemy of his. And just like Vladimir Putin or Erdogan or Xi and China, he used the power of government corruptly to go after his perceived political opponents. We can't allow that to happen again, Don. This is not a 500-year flood. As we speak, he is telling others that he will be reinstated in August, and he has people who are willing to, bring violence, collect arms, and come to the Capitol to try and make that true. So it's a fragile time for our democracy.
It truly is a fragile time for America. There's no question about it. You have the states trying to suppress the people from coming to the polls in the first place. You've got fraudulent audits going on in the second place. You have a Department of Justice that's been weaponized, and the people who were part of this spying effort that was done against sitting members of Congress who are constitutionally tasked with oversight over the executive branch, they're still there. They are still working inside DOJ. Bill Barr put together a small team of people to do this dirty work for Donald Trump, the spying organization that he was running out of DOJ. And he went and found loyalists from other U.S. attorneys' offices. In fact, one of the guys that he found, Barr did, he built a little, internal network of, people that would do this kind of dirty, disgusting, abusive thing. You don't do this in a vacuum. And one of the guys mentioned in this New York Times article is a guy out of New Jersey. He's a prosecutor out of New Jersey, and he had no experience in intelligence at all. He had no experience in, anything. His prosecutorial experience was in healthcare fraud, but he was a Trump loyalist, and so Barr pulled him in and put him on this supposed, task force to convene a grand jury to get subpoenas against sitting members of the House Intelligence Committee and others. I mean, this is bizarro world. And in fact, do you remember when Kamala Harris actually questioned Barr, and she asked, "Has anybody ever asked you to investigate somebody for them?"
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Remember this?
I think spying on a political campaign is a big deal. It's a big deal. Generation I grew up in, which was the Vietnam War period, people were all concerned about spying on anti-war people and so forth by the government. And there were a lot of rules put in place to make sure that there's an adequate basis before our law enforcement agencies get involved in political surveillance. Mm-hmm. I'm not suggesting that those rules were violated, but I think it's important to look at that. And I'm not talking about the FBI necessarily, but intelligence agencies more broadly.
So you're not suggesting, though, that spying occurred?
I don't, I guess you could, I think spying did occur. Yes, I think spying did occur.
Yes, you were spying. You were spying. You were the one that was spying. You're the spy. You remember Kamala asked him about that? I guess there was some sort of a feeling that people were being spied on. I don't know exactly how she had the intuition, what do you want to call it? The impetus to ask him if the president ever asked you to open up an investigation into anybody. But back then she knew to ask him this, something intuitive. I don't know. She's just a natural prosecutor. Or maybe people felt it. Maybe people knew something. Maybe people knew something. I will tell you that Google actually told members of Congress, we don't know which ones, that they were, that documents and metadata for their phones and emails were requested a year ago.
Attorney General Barr, has the president or anyone at the White House ever asked or suggested that you open an investigation of anyone?
I wouldn't.
Yes or no?
Could you repeat that question?
I will repeat it.
Yeah.
Has the president or anyone at the White House ever asked or suggested that you open an investigation of anyone? Yes or no, please, sir?
The president or anybody else?
Seems you would remember something like that and be able to tell us.
Yeah, but I'm trying to grapple with the word suggest. I mean, there have been discussions of matters out there that they have not asked me to open an investigation, but
Perhaps they've suggested?
I don't know. I wouldn't say suggest.
Hinted?
Inferred.
I don't know.
Inferred? You don't know. Okay.
He doesn't know. There was a grand jury that had been convened, and he knew about it. He knew about it. So this is perjury, okay? This man lied about a material fact, and we knew that Kamala was onto something. We didn't know exactly what that line of questioning, what prompted it. We didn't know why she thought to ask it. I just thought she's a natural prosecutor, but you could look. I should play it again just so that this time when you watch it, direct your eyes to Cory Booker, who's sitting next to Kamala. Okay, just watch Cory Booker's face. I mean, it took everything for him not to burst out laughing. So they knew something. Watch
Attorney
this.
General Barr, has the president or anyone at the White House ever asked or suggested that you open an investigation of anyone?
Watch Cory.
I wouldn't.
Yes or no?
Could you repeat that question?
I will repeat it.
Yeah.
Has the president or anyone at the White House ever asked or suggested that you open an investigation of anyone? Yes or no, please, sir?
The president or anybody else?
Seems you would remember something like that and be able to tell us.
Watch Cory.
Yeah, but I'm trying to grapple with the word suggest. I mean, there have been discussions of matters out there that they have not asked me to open an investigation, but
Perhaps they've suggested?
I don't know. I wouldn't say suggest.
Hinted?
I don't know.
Inferred? You don't know. Okay.
It's priceless. It's absolutely priceless, but this is why we have an archive of video clips. This is exactly why we have an archive of video clips. And, of course, Donald Trump, the whole time that this is going on, the spying, into the Intelligence Committee members, and that's, and also reporters at the New York Times, reporters at the Washington Post, and for some strange reason, the defense reporter, the Pentagon reporter, Barbara Starr, over at CNN. All these subpoenas are out, and they've been out since Sessions, and that's how we know he's lying, right? Because we now know that the original subpoenas to spy on the members of the constitutionally tasked oversight committees in the Congress began under Jeff Sessions. So by the time Bill Barr came, that thing it had died, right? They found nothing, dead, and Barr resumed it. Barr re-upped it. Barr went and had those subpoenas renewed. They were renewed 3 times. So he's lying there, and that is perjury, and that will cost him his law license, is what that will do. And the whole time that this is going on, Donald Trump is on the TV saying that it's Schiff. It's Schiff. It's Schiff. Schiff is leaking. Schiff
They were
is leaking.
talking about why didn't I give the information to Adam Schiff and his committee? And the answer is because I think Adam Schiff is the biggest leaker in Washington.
Oh.
You know that. I know that. We all know that. I've watched Adam Schiff leak. He's a corrupt politician. He's a leaker like nobody's ever seen before.
And so this investigation actually clears him of leaking anything. It does. Jackie in Wisconsin.
Yes. Hi. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm just curious because I don't watch your show regularly. I just happen to see it on TV. But you have such a one-sided realization on how politics work in the United States. Have you ever been to Wisconsin?
I used to live
Do
in...
you know anybody from Wisconsin?
I used to live in Oconomowoc.
Okay. Because most of the regular people don't share your same attitude.
I was a regular person.
So
I worked in Wisconsin. I lived in Wisconsin. I lived in a suburb of Milwaukee called Oconomowoc. I just told you that.
Oh, I know where it is. My son goes to college in Milwaukee.
Yes, and ours went to the University of Wisconsin at Madison. So, yeah, what's your point?
Oh, yeah. Well, Wisconsin at Madison is about as liberal as it comes.
And that means what to you?
It means that Milwaukee and Madison tend to go very liberal.
What is this? What is this about? What is this about? Jackie, what is this about?
I'm just listening to you.
Yes,
you want to talk bad about Trump and everything. Are you going to apologize for any of all of the misjournalism regarding Trump? That he did not.
What is misjournalism?
He did not.
What is misjournalism? What is misjournalism?
He did not require the park to be emptied. He did not require all this stuff.
Jackie, they only looked at the parks police. They did not look at the prison police, the extraction teams, and they didn't look at they didn't look at the DC police. That report,
whatever makes your side look good.
Jackie, that was a very narrow look at the park police. That did not look at the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department. It didn't look at the Little Green Men. You remember the Little Green Men, right, Jackie? They were guys who were brought in from the Bureau of Prisons. They were extraction teams. They didn't have any name tags on. They were covered over. The Department of Prisons was covered over. They had no insignia. Remember them? This report yesterday did not look at their behavior or involvement in Bill Barr's request to have the place cleared so Donald Trump could walk to the church. And you know what else, Jackie? You know what's really interesting about that? The clergy members, and you could look this up, and I would beg you to look this up. The clergy members at the church, the little church that Donald Trump used for his upside-down Bible photo op, they were told to evacuate the church. They were told to leave by Bill Barr's government, okay? So if that wasn't by design, then why were the clergy told to leave the church? See what I mean? No, that report yesterday, however you understand it, was very narrow, and it only looked at the U.S. Park Police. It did not look at any of the other organizations that were tasked with, and also, I don't know if you remember this, but Bill Barr said no tear gas was used. Turns out, yes, it was. The man is a liar, Jackie, and it has nothing to do with liberal or conservative. It has to do with truth. The truth.
Mary had a little man. We believe that all men are created equal.
The magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
This one goes out to Jackie.
There was no tear gas used. The tear gas was used Sunday when they had to clear 8th Street to allow the fire department to come in to save St. John's Church. That's when tear gas was used.
There were chemical irritants. The park.
No, there were not chemical irritants. Pepper spray is not a chemical irritant.
He's a liar, Jackie. He's a liar. Wake up. Just wake up and orient yourself to the world around ye. Because you know what's a million times more disturbing than the thought of the government snooping around your stuff? The thought of your government being run by Donald Trump snooping around your stuff. Because Donald Trump considers me and people who report the enemy of the people. And now you can see that he actually took hostile action against the media, against reporters who are protected by the First Amendment from government intrusion. I don't know if you realize this, Jackie, but the First Amendment only protects people and things from government intrusion on your right to speak. And that's exactly what Donald Trump has been doing violating the basic principles of the Constitution from the get-go. The First Amendment only protects people from government intrusion into free speech. It doesn't mean that private companies like a Facebook or a Twitter or a YouTube can't have community guidelines or can't ban you because they think you're, threatening or harassing or being racist, or and they are private companies and they have their rules as private companies, which every Republican loves. They love the private sector. Well, the private sector are the first sector and the only sector in our constitutional democracy that can ban you, that can throw you off their private platform. The government cannot do that. They cannot chill free speech. They can't spy on journalists. They can't subpoena documents from journalists because they don't like what's being reported truthfully. The only thing that they can do is say that you knew what you were saying was wrong and false, and you said it anyway. That's called defamation. And that's the only recourse that a company has against a person saying whatever they want to say. The government, on the other hand, cannot keep you from saying whatever you want to say. That's protected under the First Amendment. Now, I don't know that you understand any of this, or a sliver of it, or some of it, or none of it, but you need to orient yourself, because this is dangerous what has happened in this here country. This is unusual. This is abusive. This is a government intrusion. This is, using the Department of Justice as your personal vendetta machine, your personal muscle, in a very mafioso way. I mean, weaponizing the Department of Justice against sitting members of the Intelligence Committee because you don't like what your people did that exposed them as being traitors to this nation, a la Michael Flynn talking to Kislyak, ambassador from Russia, who was regularly wiretapped in the normal course of business. Stupid Michael Flynn. I mean, obviously, you don't get what happened here. But to attack me is silly. It's just silly, because all I'm doing is reading newspapers and playing old video clips of what people testified to under oath. And they lied. And that is demonstrably true now that we know what happened. That's it. That's all that happened. Now, I understand that you've been fed a steady dose of lies. I understand that you've been, just suckling on the, I don't even want to say it. You know what I'm saying? Of Donald Trump. But he has lied to you repeatedly and vigorously and endlessly over and over and over and over. And by the way, that report that was done by the Inspector General of the U.S. Parks Department, who was Trump appointed. His name's Greenblatt. And all he looked at was the U.S. Park Police, okay? He didn't show you what I'm about to show you. He didn't even look at what I'm about to show you. And you remember this. You will remember this. This right here are the little green men. These people were the Department of Prisons extraction teams, okay? And they had no markings on them. They had covered up their name tags. They're in riot gear. They have military-grade weapons. And these are prison extraction teams that were sicked on the protesters in Lafayette Square Park. That report yesterday did not go there. It did not look at it, okay? Now, Michael Cohen's Trump's former fixer, Michael Cohen, right, his former fixer, was interviewed recently, and this is before we even knew what Bill Barr was up to. This is before we knew Bill Barr was, a corrupt guy. We understood he was a corrupt guy because of the way he applied for the job. He applied for the job in an open letter to Donald Trump, telling Donald Trump that, look what you got. You don't got a wartime consigliere. You want me. You want me, right? And Michael Cohen actually said out loud that the new fixer is our Attorney General of the United States. Our new fixer is Bill Barr.
Who is his new Michael Cohen. Who do you think is the new fixer for President Trump?
Attorney General Bill Barr, Rudy Giuliani to an outside extent, but I would say for the most part it would be Attorney General Bill Barr. And boy, what a terrible shame, taking an illustrious career and throwing it right down the toilet, all for what? And I don't know why they do it. I don't know why Jim Jordan's doing it, Mark Meadows. I don't know why most of these Republicans refuse to stand up when they know fundamentally what he's saying is a lie. They know morally it's wrong, and they just go along with it. I mean, let's go back to COVID for a second. He's walking in the street, and to be loyal to him, you can't wear a mask either, knowing that over 200,000 people have already died. A friend of mine's mom died the other day. She doesn't call it the coronavirus. She certainly doesn't call it the China virus. She calls it the Trump virus.
Okay, so I just, for reference, when Michael Cohen said that Bill Barr was the new fixer, we had only lost 200,000 Americans due to the dereliction of duty that Donald Trump, showed us, right? He told us hydroxychloroquine would cure it. He told us put UV lights up our bum. He told us, drink disinfectant. Maybe we could do something with that, right? And he made the mask into a political weapon so that we ended up so far with over 600,000 lost souls in this country. Now, Jackie, I just want you to know this. Those 600,000 lives lost, they will not get another chance. They will not get another shot at it. They're dead. And they're dead because the President of the United States didn't want to show up and tell people to wear masks, to quarantine themselves. He didn't want testing because he said the testing was responsible for the case numbers. Well, the testing isn't responsible for the dead. We have over 600,000 in this country who will never, ever be able to tell you that they had made a mistake listening to him. So smarten up, honey. Smarten up. And don't attack my lack of knowledge about America. I've lived all over this country. I've worked all over this country. You are in way, way over your head. And I'm being sympathetic because I feel sorry for you. I really do. But now you know that these members of Congress were spied on and they were guilty of nothing.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
It is midnight in Washington. The lights are finally going out in the Capitol after a long day in the impeachment trial of Donald J. Trump. You can't trust this president to do the right thing, not for 1 minute, not for one election, not for the sake of our country. You just can't.
Bing, bing, bong, bong.
He will not change, and you know it. History will not be kind to Donald Trump. I think we all know that. Not because it will be written by never-Trumpers, but because whenever we have departed from the values of our nation, we have come to regret it. And that regret is written all over the pages of our history. If you find that the House has proved its case and still vote to acquit, your name will be tied to his with a cord of steel and for all of history. He has betrayed our national security. He has compromised our elections, and he will do so again. You will not change him. You cannot constrain him. Truth matters little to him. What's right matters even less, and decency matters not at all. We have proven Donald Trump guilty. Now do impartial justice and convict him.
And that's who got spied on. That's who got spied on. Jalen in Oklahoma.
Hey, how you doing, Randy? Thanks for your service, and thanks for the truth. And Jackie, get some help.
Poor Jackie.
Poor Jay. Poor Jay. You have sympathy for all these Trumpers. I don't anymore, especially after they try to overthrow our government and all these lies, and they just want to turn our country into a war-torn third world country.
I'm a big fan. He's speaking the truth.
That's my 16-year-old.
Oh, hey, 16-year-old. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Listen, I just want your 16-year-old to know that in 2024 he's going to be able to vote. And yeah, and right on. And wouldn't it be nice if you could actually get to your ballot? That would be a good thing, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah, I know. I mean, they don't teach the history that they should be teaching in the schools now. They've already blocked that. So now they're using all these people's hate and bigotry to pump up their base, because that's all they got, because they don't give a damn about the working man.
No, they don't. They don't care about the work. In fact, I got to tell you that they're talking about this infrastructure package, which should be important to you guys in Oklahoma, right? And so they're talking about this infrastructure package, and they're saying that the Republicans don't want to tax any corporations, or they don't want an alternative minimum tax for rich people. They don't want to raise a nickel from them. Instead, wait. Just wait for it. This is unbelievable. Instead, you know what they propose doing?
What is that?
A gas tax on you and me. Raising.
We already pay a gas tax. We just want to pay more now?
Yes, we pay 18.4 cents on every gallon of gas. 18 cents, almost 18, 19 cents. Diesel, truck drivers, my poor drivers out there, they pay almost 25 cents per diesel gallon.
Yeah, and the sad thing is 60% of those truck drivers are Trump supporters.
Well, that's not true. I mean, I'm an old driver, and Antonio, who's in that promo that you just saw, he's a driver too. I got a lot of good drivers out there.
I know a ton of them. My dad worked warehouse his whole life, which, by the way, he was a recon Marine, so he is a true believer in the Navy got our asses there, and the Air Force protected our asses.
Yes, we do, but from afar.
But still, you always had their back.
From a distance, yes. Take care. Thanks, Jalen. Thank you, 16-year-old. You had no name. Maybe when you're 18, you can tell me your name. But this is what the Republicans again propose. Now, I want you to understand Biden rejected it. Biden says he will not raise taxes on any person in this country making less than $400,000 a year, right? And that includes the stealthy taxes, the on the sly Reagan taxes, right? Like, oh, hey, you know what we could do? We could let the corporations and the rich people off the hook, and we could just tax people's Social Security checks. That was a Reagan thing. We can raise the gas tax. That's a Reagan thing. And again, they're back at it saying, okay, so here's how we'll pay for infrastructure. People will have an increase in the 18% per gallon 18 cents that you already pay per gallon. They'll raise that, and they'll raise the 24 cents on diesel. They'll raise that tax. And Biden said that's a non-starter. He meant it. He's keeping his promise. He will not raise taxes on anybody making less than $400,000. And I think we know truck drivers don't make $400,000. And I think we know most working Americans don't make $400,000. So we're not paying a gas tax, and he's rejected it. But I just want you to know that this is the little scheme. This is what it is. It's always raising taxes on us. A stealthy, like they took away, used to be on your credit card, you were able to deduct the interest that you paid on your credit cards. That went away with Reagan. Reagan started taxing your little Social Security check that you earned. You paid taxes to have the Social Security benefit, and then he turned around and taxed the benefit. It's so gross. And they do the same damn thing over and over again, but they fill Jackie's head with garbage, disinformation, misinformation, so that they can tax her into oblivion, and she won't even know it. She'll advocate for it. She'll literally advocate for her own destruction. It's such a slick and sly thing they got going on with poor Jackie. Brian and Pompano.
Ron DeSantis did the same thing in Florida, and no one noticed his either.
That's right. He just raised taxes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he just started taxing. You know, we do business in Florida, right? That's where we are. And now there's an internet tax.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I called to bitch at you, Randy, because I got my 2 shots of Moderna, and I don't have my damn magnetic powers. It's all your fault.
No, I was cheated too. I didn't get it. I have my. I mean, I want to stick a fork in Jackie because she's done, but. Honestly, my fork is not sticking to me, and I had 2 doses of Moderna, and I'm not magnetized. Not my fault.
I'm sticking a fork to my nose as we speak, and nothing.
Freaks. They promised us. Tracking chips and Wi-Fi, and they said that I would be able to stick things on myself.
You and Bill Gates.
Yes, and George Soros too, who, by the way, paid no taxes, 0 taxes. So for all you people out there that hate George Soros, you don't exactly know why. You just know he's a Jew, and you decided, I hate him. I don't know what goes on with his name. Oh, that's right. He's the Jew that's responsible for bringing in immigrants to make white people a minority. Right. He paid no taxes. He paid no taxes, and he's like telling you, this is wrong. This is wrong. Oh, and I have to correct myself from yesterday. I said Amazon doesn't pay $15 an hour. They do, and I stand corrected because when I make a mistake, I own it, and I did say that, and that was not true. Since 2018, woohoo, they pay 15.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randy, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Hey, everybody, it's $5 Friday, you bastards. $5 Friday. What does that mean? It means that what we're asking you to do to support Free Speech TV, which is an independent media platform, that takes no political dollars. That takes no corporate dollars. That is simply surviving on viewers and viewers like you who give small amounts during our pledge drives. And this is a summer pledge drive. This is the end of the second week. We have one more week to go. Light at the end of the tunnel, everybody. Fair warning. But today is something called $5 Friday. Now, what is $5 Friday? All we need for you to do today is become a sustaining donor, meaning you agree for a monthly donation of $5 a month, $5 a month, or more. More is good, but it's basically focused on small donations today, $5 recurring monthly sustaining donor donations, $5 Friday. So now, if you're already a Free Speech TV sustaining donor, we say thank you so much. It helps us plan for the future. Obviously, we know what we can count on budget-wise to pay people going forward when you have a sustaining donor who's willing to do this monthly. And so today is a plea to you to do $5 a month just to help us plan and budget and pay. There are 16 people that get paid. That is how many people. And they are all based in Denver, Colorado. That is where Free Speech TV is based. It is a 501c3, not for profit. That makes it tax deductible. And today we're just asking for sustaining donors to commit to $5 a month. So the first 5 people to call in every hour during this show, or, I missed the last hour, so maybe they'll extend it. They get a Free Speech TV mystery box in the mail. It's a mystery box. Has nothing to do with mine. Okay? It's just a mystery box. You'll get it in the mail. It's a thank you gift. So hurry, be one of the first 5 to commit to $5 on $5 Friday. Maybe they will extend it to 10. I'll ask, Lydia is the person that's in charge of this. I will ask her to give 10 because I didn't say this during the first hour. I neglected. And like I said, when I'm wrong, I'm wrong. It's just, yes, Amazon pays $15 an hour minimum wage. And I forgot to, tell you it was $5 Friday, you bastards, at the beginning of the show. So maybe she'll do 10 boxes, 10 mystery boxes. I think I could talk her into it. She's a pretty nice lady. All right, Rob in Arizona. Oh, Rob. Hello, Rob. Bye-bye, Rob.
Oh, hello, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Sorry, I'm right here. I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here.
Okay.
Sorry, I was
Okay.
on mute. Hey, I just wanted to emphasize something you said yesterday, which I think kind of sums up the week. You said to the effect that America tries to right its wrongs. And that hit me because I'm thinking about, and then you gave examples of Ocasio and, her statements in Congress. And then you went on to Elizabeth Warren and her trying to fight the taxes. And those are two examples of Americans trying to right wrongs. And every time you hear a Republican open their mouth, they're trying to make it wrong for you to have rights. They're actually doing the opposite.
That's very good.
Yeah, and I got that from you because I'm just thinking, that sums it up right there. Because when's the last time a Republican has opened his mouth where they're trying to help people or right or wrong?
Oh, no, they don't want to help people. That's what Ronald Reagan told you. He said the most terrifying words that you'll ever hear is, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. They have talked Americans into believing that we don't need government to do the things that individuals cannot possibly do, like set up a tax code or clean up Superfund sites or fight wars or, it's so funny, but everybody gets policing, right? Everybody gets the protection of the police, regardless of their ability to pay. And yet you have Republicans screaming about socialism. I don't understand them, but you're right. They every time that they are in power, you lose more rights, right? So here they are in the next session of the Supreme Court. They're going to try and take away women's rights to privacy, which is what that issue is. It's a right to privacy. Here you have them actively in states taking away your right to vote. Literally, suppressing people's access to the ballot. We should be making it easier to vote in the 21st century, not a freaking, a gauntlet that you have to run. You go, you get a driver's license, okay? And you get the driver's license by showing a birth certificate, a social security card. You have to show documents to get a driver's license. Then you get the driver's license. You could register to vote right then and there because you've shown a birth certificate, you've shown a social security card, and you've been issued a driver's license with your photo on it. Why would you have to do that ever again? And Republicans just won't process that information. They just won't.
We got to start using the term lazy for Republicans, especially all these people in conspiracy theories. Like the one out here, we have Karen, what's her name, the head of the Senate, doing that whole
Karen
joke.
Pham.
Yeah. And basically she's just lazy because she's just saying, well, the people want this. It's like, well, do you know how what prevents people from cheating in our election? I don't think she even knows what those rules are. So that's just laziness. And she would rather perpetuate a lie than to correct, the wrong thoughts that are going on out there. And so, she's either manipulated or lazy.
Of course she's manipulated. She is part of ALEC. Okay, she's paid by the Koch brothers. She is part of that fossil fuel, Koch brothers, Heritage Foundation, Koch brothers, ALEC, Koch brothers, Americans for Prosperity and the Tea Party, Koch brothers. These are the people who are actively involved in purchasing your state legislators, purchasing your House members, purchasing the Senate. And they do it because they want the taxes low and they want fossil fuels to remain subsidized with our tax dollars. And any move to incentivize people to buy electric cars by giving them vouchers, by giving them a tax break, by giving you a tax break, me a tax break, for buying that gorgeous new Audi. Have you seen that car? I wish I could afford. That car is totally electric. It is gorgeous, okay? And we need charging stations. And that would take an investment of infrastructure. Well, the Koch brothers are anti all of that. All of it.
Right. The other thing you left out about ALEC is they don't just influence, they actually write the legislation. There has been legislation submitted with the ALEC letterhead on it.
Yes, over and over in state after state.
Yeah.
That's
they say,
why,
here it is. Just pass
okay,
it.
and talking points too, and that's why Joe Manchin's op-ed was exactly ALEC talking points, exactly Koch brothers talking points, exactly like word for word, bipartisanship and blah. Meanwhile, Joe Manchin is not bipartisan. He voted for the COVID relief package. That was not a bipartisan vote. That was reconciliation because no Republican would vote to give America a COVID relief dollar. Okay, so that's a lie. And then all of a sudden, all these state legislatures, they start talking about, I don't know, out of nowhere, they're talking about the 3/5 and 3/5 of a person and all that. everybody in like from Arizona to Massachusetts, they're talking about 3/5 and the cons. That's because Alec wrote it down for them and handed it to them, okay, to distract people from the issue of subsidized fossil fuels and an infrastructure package that actually subsidizes us for buying an electric vehicle instead of subsidizing the Koch brothers. So, yeah, I mean, this should be common knowledge that we have dark money that buys what they want.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
It's $5 Friday, you bastards. Just saying, because I neglected. Anyway, Merrick Garland had a little press conference today. Now, he did not take questions. So he talked about what he intended to talk about and was not willing to field any questions about the subpoenas that were issued by Bill Barr's Department of Justice against members of the House Intelligence Committee in retaliation by Donald Trump. He wouldn't take any questions. Now, he did schedule this particular press conference for this occasion. He wanted to talk to you and me about what the Biden Department of Justice and he, as Attorney General, intend to do to protect our right to vote as the Republican Senate and the Republican House members in states across this here country are suppressing the right to vote. So here is what he said today.
We are again without a preclearance provision. So again, the Civil Rights Division is going to need more lawyers. Accordingly, today I am announcing that within the next 30 days, we will double the division's enforcement staff for protecting the right to vote. We will use all existing provisions of the Voting Rights Act, the National Voter Registration Act, the Help America Vote Act, and the Uniformed and Overseas Citizens Absentee Voting Act to ensure that we protect every qualified American seeking to participate in our democracy. We are scrutinizing new laws that seek to curb voter access, and where we see violations, we will not hesitate to act. We are also scrutinizing current laws and practices in order to determine whether they discriminate against black voters and other voters of color. Particularly concerning in this regard are several studies showing that in some jurisdictions, non-white voters must wait in line substantially longer than white voters to cast their ballots.
Yeah, think.
We will apply the same scrutiny to post-election audits to ensure they abide by federal statutory requirements to protect election records and avoid the intimidation of voters.
That's Arizona.
In that regard, we will publish guidance explaining the civil and criminal statutes that apply to post-election audits. And we will likewise publish guidance with respect to early voting and voting by mail. And because the upcoming redistricting cycle will likely be the first since 1960 to proceed without the key preclearance provisions of the Voting Rights Act, we will publish new guidance to make clear the voting protections that apply to all jurisdictions as they redraw their legislative maps.
So in that 2-minute clip, he has ticked off solutions or possible solutions. Let's just say that, because we're going to have to see the results of the solutions proposed here. To sue the states, that's what he's talking about, the Civil Rights Division. He needs more lawyers to sue the states for discriminatory voter suppression efforts that their legislatures have passed and their Republican governors have signed. He actually brought up Arizona without saying the name of the state, the fraud that's going on there, the mess of Maricopa. Is violating, and a lot of us have pointed this out, the election laws that exist in this country that clearly say that ballots must be preserved and secured for 22 months post-election, and that the we were just talking about Karen Fann, the Senate president in Arizona, who is hooked up with the Koch brothers and Alec and takes this dark money, who subpoenaed these ballots, did it in violation of the law, and that the judge who awarded cyber ninjas, who has zero experience in election audits, and they're out of Florida, so that ought to give you pause. That ought to scare the bejesus out of you. I'm in Florida, so trust me, it's a wacky, wacky place. But he's saying that the Arizona fraud has violated the election preservation federal law that says that you have to preserve these ballots. You can't give them to a private company so that they can go sit with them with black pens in their hands and mark them. It's violative of the law. So he's saying that that's got to stop. And then he talked about one of the most mind-melting subjects that really needs to be made so simple that you could say it in a sentence: gerrymandering. And the way to say it in a sentence is gerrymandering dilutes the vote of the party not in power. Okay, so that I've said this to you a million times. So let's say in your district, there are 10 Democrats and 10 Republicans. So what the people who draw the maps are going to do is take the 10 Democrats and put 2 in that district over there, and 2 in that district over there, and 2 in this district over here, and 2 down here, and leave 2 in your district. It dilutes the vote. It should be 10 and 10, and make, a swing district should be 10 and 10, right? But they dilute the vote. So that's called gerrymandering. And he's talking about enforcing the laws that say that you can't partisan gerrymander. But Republican legislatures are going to do exactly that. So that's what he wanted to talk about today, Merrick Garland did. And he did not want to talk today about the people in DOJ who actually spied on members of the House Intelligence Committee. That's all we know right now, is at least 2. He didn't want to talk about that because he's got a really awesomely hard job, and that is to clean out the Department of Justice and rid the Department of Justice of political operatives who were put there by Donald Trump, and just rely on career professionals like we used to do the awesome job of administering justice in this country. All right, Fred in Wisconsin.
Hey, Randy.
Hey, Fred.
I'm calling just responding to Jackie, who is from Wisconsin, and probably one of the unfortunate reasons why we are suffering with Ron Johnson as being one of our senators. But I don't know what her reason for the resentment is against the blue areas of the state.
I didn't know what that was about either. I said, I said to her, what is this about?
Yeah, and I mean, we happen to be the areas that are the economic powerhouses of the state that actually help the rest of the state, quite frankly. And I mean, as a result, people live here, and we have population density that influences elections, I guess, in ways that she doesn't like. But
I don't know. I guess she didn't even realize. I mean, she didn't even bother to ask because she's so close-minded. But you know what I did when I lived in Oconomowoc? I was a truck driver. That's where I was based out of. I worked for Badger Lines. Okay, they're defunct. They don't exist anymore. But Badger Lines was a freight booker. I worked for them. I drove for them. And I used to drive right into Milwaukee with my 18-wheeler. And the reason why I lived in the suburbs was because I had to park it. Okay, and I would pick up beer in Milwaukee, and I would drive it to St. Louis. I'd drop it off in St. Louis. I'd pick up bottles in St. Louis because that's where they had the bottling. I'd take the bottles and drive to Houston, drop that off, pick up paper, and drive back. What is more American than hard work like that? And why was she so convinced that I had never done any hard work, nor did I understand the people of Wisconsin?
Yes, I think you look at the past few elections here, and I think you can understand the people of Wisconsin.
I loved the people of Wisconsin. They were exactly Midwestern nice. I also was ill. When I moved to Wisconsin, I moved there to be a DJ. I was a DJ on 93 FM, QFM. Okay, I was a morning DJ there, and I got sick, really sick. And after I got out of the hospital, I had all these hospital bills. I had just started working there, so I wasn't covered by health insurance yet. It was in the first 90 days that I worked there. And I ended up in the hospital. I needed surgery, blah, blah, blah. I get out. I have these massive bills. That's why I became a truck driver, to pay off my hospital bills. What doesn't she... I mean, why is she so...
That sounds like hard work to me.
It was something I think almost every American can relate to. So why does she think that there's something wrong with me and my experience? Why is it not? Because she's got what they call cognitive dissonance. And you know what that is. That is when you've been told a lie so often and so repeatedly that when the truth comes, you can't process it because it literally gives you anxiety. It literally makes you feel bad because you believed the lie for so long. It's hard. It's difficult. That's why I'm sympathetic.
Clear.